Okay, so you want to own a Discord community. Here's the thing that surprises people first. The community isn't the product, and it isn't even really a business by itself. It's an audience with a group chat wrapped around it. And the actual business only shows up once you figure out what that audience will pay for that group chat, on its own, was never going to give them. Get that part wrong, and you end up with a lively, popular, completely unmonetized hangout that costs you real time every single day and pays you back in nothing but notifications. Let's start with how you'd actually start this, because almost nobody who builds a real Discord business starts by building a Discord server. They start with a specific group of people who already want to talk to each other about something narrow and specific, and the server is just the room they end up meeting in. The realistic first move is picking one precise topic you already know deeply, one narrow enough that a stranger could describe exactly who belongs there in a single sentence, and inviting a small number of real people who already care about that topic before you invite everyone else. A server with 15 genuinely engaged members having real conversations is worth more and is far closer to an actual business than a server with 15,000 silent members who joined once and never said a word. A useful way to picture those early weeks concretely. The first move isn't posting an invite link publicly and hoping people show up. It's personally inviting a handful of people you already know care about the topic and spending real time actually talking with them, not just moderating from a distance. The goal for the first month isn't member count at all. It's whether the small group you invited is still showing up and talking to each other without you personally prompting every single message. Because a community that only exists when the founder is actively posting isn't a community yet. It's an audience waiting for content. Only once a small core group is genuinely active on its own does it make sense to open the door wider, because a public invite link dropped into a dead or barely active server just produces a wave of people who join, see nothing happening, and quietly leave, which is harder to recover from than simply starting slower. The actual first practical step is deciding what the free version of this community will never include before a single paid feature exists. Most Discord communities that eventually make money didn't start by planning a business model. They started by running a genuinely useful free community long enough to notice what members kept asking for that the free version didn't offer. More direct access to the person running it, more structured help instead of scattered chat, earlier access to something, or a smaller, quieter room away from the noise of the main server. That gap between what people get for free and what they keep asking for is where the actual paid product comes from later. The single most common early mistake is building the paid tier first, guessing at what would be valuable, instead of running the free community long enough to let members tell you themselves, in their own words, what they'd actually pay to get more of. Now let's get into how the money actually works once a community like this has real engagement, because there's more than one real model here, not just one. The most direct version is a paid membership tier, whether that's Discord's own built-in server subscriptions feature or an external platform like Patreon gating access to a private set of channels, where members pay monthly for something the free server doesn't offer. Extra channels, direct access to the person running it, exclusive content, or simply a smaller, calmer room away from a noisy public server. Server boosts are a smaller, more casual version of the same idea. Members paying a few dollars a month mostly for cosmetic perks and a small platform-level revenue share back to Discord itself. Useful as a light monetization layer, but rarely the main engine of a serious community business on its own. Pricing a membership tier is its own small discipline. Price it too low, and it doesn't generate enough revenue to justify the ongoing moderation and support time it demands. But price it purely to maximize revenue per member without regard for what's actually delivered. And churn quietly climbs as members realize the paid tier isn't meaningfully different from what's already free. The communities that get this right tend to price around a specific, nameable benefit, direct access, faster answers, a smaller room, rather than a vague sense of supporting the community, because supporting a community is a one-time act of goodwill, while a specific ongoing benefit is something a member reevaluates and rejustifies paying for every single month. There's a time cost dimension to all of this that rarely shows up in anyone's revenue projections. Running a genuinely healthy community, free or paid, consumes real hours every single day. Answering questions, defusing conflicts, welcoming new members, keeping conversation alive during quiet stretches. That time is the actual input being converted into the business's core asset, which is member trust and engagement, and it doesn't show up on an income statement the way a cloud hosting bill does, but it's just as real a cost, And it's usually the first thing that gets underestimated by anyone comparing this business to something that scales more passively. Sponsorships are the second real model, and they work differently here than almost anywhere else in the creator economy, because a Discord community's real value to a sponsor isn't raw member count. It's how concentrated and specific that audience is. A server of 3,000 people who are all, provably, deeply engaged in one narrow topic is worth more to the right sponsor than a general audience of 30,000 scattered across a dozen unrelated interests, because a sponsor in that specific niche knows every single person seeing their message is actually a plausible customer, not just a bystander. That concentration is the entire pitch when negotiating a sponsorship, and it's why niche communities routinely command sponsorship rates that look disproportionate to their raw size. Structuring a sponsorship will usually means moving past a single flat payment for a pinned message towards something closer to a genuine partnership. A sponsor might fund a recurring event, underwrite a giveaway members actually want, or get a dedicated channel where their presence feels like a benefit to members rather than an interruption. Communities that let sponsorships feel like advertising tend to see engagement quietly decline right in the channel sponsors are paying to be seen in, which is the fastest way to make a sponsorship less valuable the following renewal. The third model, and often the most overlooked one, is using the community as free, high-trust distribution for something else entirely, a paid product, a course, a piece of software, or a service that the community exists partly to support. This model works especially well for anyone selling something with a genuinely high price point or a longer buying decision. Coaching, consulting, a serious piece of software, because the community's real function is compressing the trust building that would normally take months of cold outreach into something that happens naturally through ordinary daily conversation. In this version, the Discord server itself never charges a cent directly. Its entire value is that it keeps a group of genuinely interested people close, engaged, and easy to reach the moment you have something real to sell them, which converts dramatically better than a cold email list or an anonymous social media following ever could, because the trust was built through real, ongoing conversation rather than one-way broadcasting. Let's ground all of this in a real, well-documented example, because the abstractions only mean something once you see the model actually working at scale. Midjourney, the AI image generation company, built its entire early product experience directly inside a single Discord server rather than a standalone app or website, which was itself an unusual, deliberate choice. Users generated images by typing commands to a bot directly in shared Discord channels, which meant every single person using the product was also, simultaneously, sitting inside the community, watching other members' results appear in real time, learning technique from strangers' prompts, and building genuine relationships around a shared creative interest, all while the core paid product ran in the background. Founded by David Holes, Midjourney reportedly reached more than $100 million in annual revenue by sometime in 2022 with a team of only around a dozen people, entirely self-funded, without ever raising a traditional venture capital round the way most fast-growing AI companies of that era did. The community itself did real product work too, not just marketing work. Because generations happened in shared public channels rather than private ones, new users could watch experienced members craft prompts in real time and learn the actual skill of using the tool just by reading along, which meant the community was quietly handling a huge share of onboarding and education that a typical software company would otherwise have to build its own dedicated support team and documentation to cover. What made Midjourney's approach remarkable wasn't that a chat platform happened to host a good product. It's that the community and the product were never actually separate things in the first place. The Discord server was the interface, the support channel, the marketing engine, and the trust-building mechanism, all running as one system, which meant Midjourney never had to solve the separate, harder problem most creator economy communities eventually face. How do you get a community, built for connection, to eventually also become a business, built for revenue? Midjourney simply built the business and the community as the exact same object from day one, and that fusion is a large part of why it scaled with such a small team relative to its revenue. Now, the honest downside case, because most Discord communities that try to monetize never get anywhere close to Midjourney's outcome, and the reasons are fairly consistent. The most common failure is a server that's genuinely lively and fun, but has no clear reason anyone would pay for more of it, because the free experience already gives members everything they actually wanted. Charging for access to a group chat that isn't already solving a real, specific, ongoing problem for its members almost always fails, because the moment there's a price attached, the bar for value shifts entirely, and fun to hang out in stops being enough on its own. There's a subtler version of that same failure worth naming directly. Communities that grow their member count successfully, but never grow their engagement alongside it. A server can climb from 100 members to 10,000, while the actual number of people posting on a given day barely moves, because growth came from a viral moment or a single large invite push rather than from the same organic, one person at a time process that built the original core. That kind of growth looks impressive on a member counter and means almost nothing to a sponsor doing real diligence or to a paid tier's actual conversion rate, because both depend on genuine engagement, not raw headcount sitting quietly in a sidebar. Moderation and burnout are the second major failure mode, and they're chronically underestimated by anyone who hasn't run a real, active community before. A growing server needs consistent moderation to stay usable, and in the early days that moderation is almost always the founder's own unpaid time, checked constantly, at all hours, across time zones, because toxicity and spam don't pause for anyone's schedule. Communities that scale past a founder's personal capacity without building a real, trained, and eventually compensated moderation team tend to quietly decay from the inside, becoming less pleasant to be in even as the member count keeps climbing, right up until engagement collapses seemingly all at once, when in reality it had been eroding slowly and invisibly for months. Platform dependency is the third risk, and it's structurally identical to the risk that hangs over any business built entirely on top of someone else's platform. Discord itself can change its policies, its monetization features, or its fee structure at any time, and every hour of community building work sits on infrastructure the community owner doesn't actually control. The communities that treat this risk seriously keep an own channel outside Discord entirely, an email list, a separate website, a payment relationship that doesn't route through Discord's own systems, so that if the platform ever changes the rules overnight, the actual relationships and the actual revenue don't evaporate along with it. This isn't a hypothetical risk unique to Discord specifically. It's the same lesson every creator economy business eventually learns the hard way on whichever platform it started on. Algorithm changes, policy shifts, and sudden feature deprecations have repeatedly blindsided businesses that assumed the platform they grew up on would stay a stable, neutral foundation forever, when in reality, every platform optimizes for its own goals first, and a community's monetization strategy is only ever a secondary consideration to the company running the servers underneath it. It's worth being honest about scale here too, because Midjourney's outcome is very much the exception rather than the norm. The overwhelming majority of paid Discord communities operate at a far more modest level. A few hundred paying members at $10 or $20 a month is a genuinely healthy, sustainable small business for one person running it as a real focused effort, even though it's nowhere near a $100 million outcome. The economics still work at that scale precisely because the actual costs are so low, mostly time rather than capital, which is exactly why this business, done honestly and at a realistic size, remains one of the more accessible ones in this entire series to actually start. So what actually separates a Discord community that becomes a real, durable business from the enormous number that stay just a hobby forever? It's specificity, a server built around one narrow, clearly defined reason to exist, rather than a broad general hangout, hoping a business model shows up eventually. It's listening before building, letting real members' actual requests define the paid product instead of guessing up front what people might want. It's treating moderation and community health as a real, ongoing cost of doing business, not a free byproduct of popularity. And it's never letting the entire relationship live entirely inside a platform the community doesn't own, keeping at least one real, direct line to members that would survive even if Discord itself disappeared tomorrow. So if you're serious about owning a Discord community, the honest starting advice is almost boring compared to a $100 million outcome like Midjourney's. Find one specific, narrow reason for exactly the right small group of people to want to talk to each other. Run that free and genuinely well for long enough to hear what they'd actually pay for more of, and only then build the paid layer on top of what they already told you they wanted. Everything else in this video, the sponsorship deals, the membership tiers, the outcome at the very top of this industry, is just what happens next if that first, unglamorous community actually works. If you enjoyed deep dives into the economics behind real industries, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more business documentaries every week.